Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm your co-host, Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt, and this is the end. This is the end of West Indies cricket as we know it. Netherlands chased 374 in 50 overs, took it to a super over, then licked us down for an extra 30 runs. Fam, we're done. We're absolutely done out here. Where's Santoki? Santoki, how you doing?
You know what? I'm laughing at that intro, bro. That's an all-time. That's a Hall of Fame intro.
And you know what? I'm not turning the lights on for the whole episode. I'm just staying out here in the darkness. These men have sent me deep into the wilderness to try and find my soul, man.
You got me cracking up, man. Like, man said, it's done to take it. We're done. But on the real, you know, this might be my lowest point as a fan of West Indies cricket. You know, such a loss. The magnitude, like considering what was on the line. The way we lost it, 30 in a super over. That's never been done before. Unprecedented levels. And I can't remember a time when it's felt lower being a West Indies fan, Mash.
This is the thing. Because you don't want to fall into the hyperbole of any situation and be like, this is the worst it's ever been. And I'm sure there's a section of West Indian fans who will say, you didn't see us when we lost to Kenya in 96 or whatever it might have been. But nobody was in World Cup qualifiers then, right? So, and this is with full respect to all of the teams who are in the World Cup qualifiers. But when you have a team that has a legacy where they didn't lose for 15 years, they've got 2 ODI World Cups to their name. In fairness, we've got the recent T20 World Cups and whatnot, but we're already at our lowest ebb in so much as having to qualify for the World Cup. The Netherlands aren't a weak side, so we have to put the context as well, Santoki. It's not like the Netherlands are any jabroni side like the United States, right? The Netherlands do have ODI status. They were in the ODI World Super League. The games we played against them last year in the Netherlands were much closer than the 3-0 scoreline suggests. So it's not like the Netherlands are some rubbishy side. But if you post 374 against anybody other than like a Bazball England side, aren't you supposed to be able to defend that? No matter who you're really playing, aren't you supposed to be able to defend that? And I don't know, Santoki, it was like a bad dream. As it unfolded, I was like, wait, what are these guys doing? And there's so many levels to it, Santoki. So I guess, should we actually start from the beginning with our actual innings?
Wait, hold on. To put into context, Mash, about what you just said, if you post 374, should you expect to win? If Netherlands had scored one more run, it would have been the second highest ODI chase of all time. Only South Africa, when they did that 4-3-5 against Australia, was higher. So you're right, Mash. It's basically unprecedented. It's never been done before. And when West Indies posted that score 3-7-4, I'm just gonna admit I thought the match was done. I thought we'd wrap it up, and it wasn't feasible in my mind that Netherlands could even come close. Bearing in mind, Netherlands' highest ever score in ODI cricket was 315, which they scored a few days ago against Zimbabwe. It just didn't cross my mind. But as you said, Mash, it was like a unfolding nightmare. Slowly and gradually, they kept up with the run rate. Then they started to accelerate. And one of their men got a quick century. And you're thinking, hold on. And then they come down to what, 4 runs needed and 4 balls. And you're thinking, hold on, Netherlands have won this. We bring it from the brink, scrambled at the end, last ball wicket to take it to a super over. And Mash, even then I was thinking, this is a massive, massive wake-up call, but surely we're going to do it in the super over. Like, we have to perform in the super over. 30 in the super over, never been done before. 25 is the record in international cricket. And then I'm sure we'll come on to this. Out comes Shy Hope with Johnson Charles. Shy Hope. Shy Hope, Bob. Are you mad? Are you telling me unprecedented runs 30? You need someone to hit a sobers over, 6 sixes, and you're bringing Shy Hope out. It's over, bro. When I saw Shy Hope, okay, it's over. What did we even get in the end? 8. We scored 81s.
And we lost 2 wickets as well.
Bro, Romario Shepherd came in for his big return. He lasted 2 balls. He got 2 chances. 2 balls. He lost his wicket twice for 2 balls. Are you mad? West Indies cricket is done, bruv. End the show, bruv. End the show. Throw the towel in, bruv. It's done.
Do you know what? I actually hate this team. I hate them. I hate them so much, man. God. And the thing is, when they lost, I was legit. I told myself, because we've seen so many L's that you would think that we're used to it. But when they lost, I was legitimately vexed. And I don't even know why I was vexed, because I was like, oh, I've seen all the L's there is to see. But I was at school, and detention had finished about half an hour ago. So there was this like empty hall of chairs in the detention hall. And honest to God, I was this close to getting up and just mashing up the whole detention room and kicking desks over for no reason. That's how vexed they'd made me. I don't. Why was I vexed, Santoki? We've seen this nonsense all before.
No, we haven't. You know what? We haven't, because you know what? People are going to tune into this and be like, oh, these men are taking it lighthearted. It's because we've had time to process and reflection. At the time, both of us were vexed. And I think, Mash, we kind of alluded to it on the last episode. It's all right to talk about something in theory. Oh, you know, West Indies, we might not qualify for the World Cup, ODI World Cup. You know, the team's looking a bit problematic. But when it actually happens, this has never... I mean, we've fumbled in the T20 World Cup, but this has never happened. We've never missed out on an ODI World Cup, which is seemingly almost likely certain to happen. When it hits you in reality, Mash, it's different from the theory and talking about it. And this is the first time as fans we've had to deal with the gravity of this situation. And what makes it even worse is it wasn't even... You know what? If Netherlands had comprehensively beaten us, I would be like, okay, cool, we got outplayed again, like whatever. But it's the fact, the nature of the... We put up 3-7-4 and we still lost the match. Do you know how mad that is? 3-7-4. Pooran put together the 3rd fastest ODI century by West Indies players. 63 balls, all in vain. You telling me? Man was breaking records for no reason. Can you imagine being Nicholas Pooran at this point in time? But I go back to it, Mash. For me, Shy Hope coming out to bat in the... I still can't get over it, man. I need someone to come to explain. Shy Hope, I get Pooran was ineligible because he hadn't been fielding for whatever a certain amount of time, so he couldn't come. But you got Brandon King, you got Jason Holder, you got anyone who can leng the ball for a 6. You're bringing out Shy Hope when there's 31 runs to score in the super over. For me, that encapsulates West Indies. There was no logic. There's no logic to anything. Nothing makes sense. We're just going to be questioning stuff for the rest of our lives. And yeah, I'm vexed still. You know, the laughter is covering up the anger. But this is the lowest point for me, Mash, and I'm sure it probably is for you.
2 things I want to kind of point out, and actually, Crick Lover has made one of the Crick Lover's not made the point that I want to make, but it's reminded me of another point I wanted to make. So let me deal with this point first. 2 months ago, the West Indies Academy played in the Headley Week series against Team Weeks and Team Headley in our 4-day domestic championship. Team Weeks and Team Headley was made up of established pros in our domestic game. The academy team was made up of youngsters who, between the team of 11, had played probably no more than 8 first-class matches between them, if that. And the academy side like clapped them both up in essence, right? And at the time, we were like, how is an academy side beating the established pros in our domestic game? Now we know why. Because Santoki, let's call a spade here. Our players are shit. That's it. You see, because sometimes I don't want to do this because I'm like, we're trying to take ourselves like we're supposed to be serious kind of journalists. We're supposed to be a serious media outlet. But at some point, and this isn't hyperbole. So anyone listening, yeah, I'm in the darkness, but this isn't hyperbole. When is the point at which we realistically, as fans, stop gassing up these players? Because we've got evidence after evidence after evidence that they're no good. They're no good. I don't care how many hundreds a man has. I don't care when they sporadically play well, because the common denominator is that they're shit. And this was just the latest shit performance. And how many more of them do we have to put up with before we start calling it what it actually is? Because, and here's I'm angry. I'm angry, bruv. I'm angry, Satsuki. Because here's the sign of how you know you've got a bad team. When it's what they're bad at, they're not even consistently bad at. And let me explain what I mean. Against Sim, we were 1-7-1 for 5 and couldn't chase down 2-6-8. Next match, we put up 3-7-4 but can't defend 3-7-4. From game to game to game, the shitness just varies. Do you get where I'm coming from? You can't even be consistently bad at one thing. You just bounce from bad stuff to bad stuff, and we don't know what level of bad we're getting from game to game. I guess you could say the one consistency in this tournament is they can't catch a cold. But one day we can bat, next day we can't bowl. Like, what is this, Santoki, man? What do we have to put up with this, man?
It's basically, you know how in most teams you're thinking, which one of our top players is going to put in a match-winning performance? With West Indies, we're just panicking. Who's going to be the guy that springs the surprise with a match-losing performance? You just never know where it's going to come from. There's no consistency. Just today, how it unfolded was a complete mess. And look, even if you take Jason Holder, he bowled 59 runs, I think he gave in his 10 overs. Decent spell. He just lost the plot completely in the super over. Full tosses there and there, missing his length, went for 30. So you just don't know where the poor performances are going to come from. But it's consistent throughout the team, Mash. And I don't even know. Do we even bother break down this match, Mash? Do we stick to our Formula match?
I don't think we can break down the match, but there were a few things. I guess, 3-7-4 is 3-7-4. We can't. I'm not here to critique the batting. I'm sure some people say, boy, they should have made 400 or whatever. Okay, cool. But if you make 3-7-4, you're supposed to defend it. So we have to just look at the Netherlands innings. And there's a few things that I just want to talk about. I think from the jump, no one apart from Holder really had control. Yeah. And which is why it's weird to then see Holder bowl the super over and have no control whatsoever. But everyone was kind of all over, and Chase, in fact, Chase bowled with a bit of control. But everyone was kind of all over the place with the ball, right? But the one thing that surprised me, I think, Netherlands went into the final 2 overs needing 32 runs with only, how many wickets left? 3? It was either 3 wickets left or 2 wickets left. Now, okay, Van Beek can hit a long ball. I hear all that. Long levers, I hear all that. Someone explain to me, Santoki. If it's not you, someone in the chat explain. Why did Chase get the penultimate over? And that's not me having a go at Chase, because I thought Chase had bowled well in the match. But if I'm Logan Van Beek, right, and I'm thinking, right, there's 32 to go, 32 off 12. I need to cash in this penultimate over to give ourselves a chance in the last over. Let's get it down to a total that we can probably get in the last over, or at least come close to get him. If I'm looking at the West Indies bowlers, don't I want the off spinner to come on? Because you know he's and that's not Chase's fault, because someone told Chase to bowl the penultimate over, right? But surely that's what you want. Why did they
Yeah.
not turn to someone like Romario Shepherd and say, well, boy, yes, I know people say, but Mash, Romario Shepherd falls apart at the back end as well. But at least Romario Shepherd's used to bowling at the death.
Yeah.
What the...
I think the chase, for me, the logic with the chase thing was he got 3 wickets. They were probably thought he could lure them into big shots and get the wickets. It was a high risk strategy. Didn't make sense when you got, you know what? If Romario Shepherd, he bowled 5 overs for 36 runs, which is good by Romario Shepherd. It's good by most standards. If he was having a bad game and his 5 overs had gone for like 60 runs, I can see why they had no choice. But if you've got a bowler who's bowling decent, he's a death bowler by nature, and you bring him on, surely. And I think that would have changed the complexion of the game. So what was it? 21 runs came off that penultimate over from Chase in the end. And that just swung the match completely, obviously. It led to the tie. So I'd be interested to see how Sammy justifies that, or the captain justifies that decision to have Chase bowl the penultimate over. Because surely, no matter how good your spinner's doing, no serious team in the world is bringing on their spinner in the penultimate over unless there's an injury or something's going on with their premium death bowlers in the side. But we had Romario Shepherd there. He had overs to bowl. So I just don't understand the logic with that either, Mash.
There's pure people in the chat saying you can't give it to Shepherd because Shepherd's rubbish at the death. So you lot would rather have a spinner, an off spinner bowl your penultimate over. It don't make no sense. Tactically, that doesn't make sense. No, what team would do it? What team would give it to an off spinner in the penultimate over? With the game situation as it was as well. You're setting Chase up to fail in that situation as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Because the whole point, or you switch it, right? You give Alzari the penultimate over because the whole point is you don't want to have to leave the last over with some dumb total that the bowlers then got to try and defend, right? I don't know, man. You know what? What's the point of me even trying to look for logic? Because logic apparently went out of the window in this match. And then much like you say, here's the other talking point, Santoki. Alzari then defended 13. You could have said he let it go, but let's just say he defended 13, right? To take it down to a tie. Because at the end of the day, remember, Netherlands only needed 1 off the final ball. And if Alzari hadn't got that wicket and Holder hadn't taken that catch, it wouldn't have even gone to the super over. So, okay, in some regards, you can say Alzari defended the 13th. Now, when the super over came, Carlos Brathwaite said on commentary, Netherlands have to let Logan van Beek be the one who bats in the super over. He's on fire. So shouldn't we have let Alzari bowl the last over as well then? Or the super over as well then? I'm not saying he was on fire, but what did you make of the decision? I wasn't angry with it per se, and it all seems like hindsight to even raise it as a point now. But what do you make of the decision to choose Holder to bowl the final over and not Alzari Joseph?
You know what? As you said, in hindsight, you're thinking, why didn't Alzari? But I can see at the time, bowling a death bowler it takes a lot out of a bowler. So to have Alzari bowl 2 overs on the trot, high intensity, they probably thought, you know what? If he's tired from that final over, he could let things slip. Obviously, in hindsight, he couldn't have got any worse than what Holder performed. But bearing in mind that Holder had bowled quite well economically as well, only 59 off his 10 overs. I think you can. There's a logic and reason, as you said, he was the most consistent bowler. There's rationale behind Holder bowling that death over. Unfortunately, it just didn't come off. So, as much as there's been a whole load of baffling decisions throughout the game and in terms of strategy, I can kind of see the Holder one making sense in the context of Alzari potentially being blown out by having bowled that last over anyway.
So there it is. We lost the game. The whole region, who still even has time for West Indies cricket, is vexed. Now, somebody said to me that in the 2019 World Cup qualifiers, Afghanistan were in this exact same position, and they managed to find a way to get through to the final, and then they beat us in the final in the 2019 World Cup qualifiers. So Afghanistan went into the Super 6 with 0 points, won all their games, and I can't remember how, but they scraped through. Arguably, but Santoki, do you know who we're playing on Friday in our first game in the Super Sixes? It's Sri Lanka, bruv. It's Sri Lanka first. So, have we got a chance, Santoki?
No, because you know what? I've seen a lot of people throw around this Afghanistan comparison, but I think in that time, Afghanistan got through with 6 points. Everyone else, the next best team got five here and there, and they were only really competing with West Indies, who topped the group. I think now you've got a Sri Lanka side who they look miles apart from everyone else. They look like a full member nation in this tournament. The way Hassaranga's bowling, taking wickets, they destroyed Oman, and Oman made it to the Super Sixes. And then you got Zimbabwe hit 408 today for the fun of it with their home crowd. I just think there's more competition. The sides have upped their levels. West Indies have declined that badly. I don't think you can compare it to Afghanistan last time, because Afghanistan, as much as there were good quality sides, that second position was still open for Afghanistan. I just think now Zimbabwe and Sri Lanka have locked up. We'd have to win all 3 games and then just hope the run rate can get past them. But I just think it's 99.9% chance we're out, essentially.
I'm trying to... Thing is, by Friday it'll be over anyways, but between now and Friday, I'm gonna try and work out a mathematical way that we can do it. But essentially, we'd need Zimbabwe to choke. Even if Sri Lanka lost to us, they're not losing another game, if that makes sense. So we'd need Zimbabwe to choke, and Zimbabwe don't look like they're choking anytime soon. So it is what it is, and more importantly, we don't deserve to be there.
This is what I mean. I'm like, part of me is thinking, do we really want to scrape by the barest of margins into the World Cup? What's the actual point? So maybe this is what we need. West Indies cricket is a complete reset. This is the wake-up call. Start afresh. I mean, there's a lot of time to dissect it, but after these qualifiers, obviously, if we don't make it to the World Cup, which looks likely, surely they hit a big reset on everything in terms of
100.
selections and how they go about it. So long term, maybe, it's fanciful thinking. Maybe it could be like England in 2015 when they thought, you know what, we have to overhaul our whole ODI setup and style and way of playing. Obviously, we don't have the same resources or talent pool as England, but maybe it could be like that, because if we qualify for the World Cup at this point, scraping through, just means we'll continue the same sort of cycle of how we play, picking players with no real logic behind it, struggling everywhere we go. So maybe we do need a big reset long term to improve the fortunes in the 50-over game.
Before we go on, because that reset conversation is a massive conversation that we do need to get into. So we're going to come back to that one. But before we go there, because neither one of us have really hit the nail on the head, I think it's just because the players aren't as good as everyone believes them to be. But why do you think this has actually happened, Santoki? If you had to put it down to 1 or 2 things, what would you go for? I mean, my answers are the players just aren't good as everyone believes them to be. And I think there's plenty of evidence now going back. Most of those players have been playing international cricket now for a long time. Okay, it's not like these are like young pups who are suddenly playing international cricket. They've been being around for a while now, right? And my thing is, any sports franchise, any sports team, if you primarily just take L's, the only thing you become specialists at doing is knowing how to lose, even in situations where you should be winning. You only really know how to lose. Right. So I think that, and Rickon's literally just written what I was about to say. I don't think they can handle pressure, Santoki. I don't think this team or these set of players have what it needs to handle pressure or pressurized situations. I think they're probably, and I'm not saying this to cuss them, I just think it's facts. I think they're weak mentally. I don't think they can cope with the pressure of the jersey. That doesn't mean they don't care about playing for West Indies. I think these players do care. I think they genuinely, desperately want to do well. And some will say it's not a talent issue. Obviously, Shea Hope is talented. Nicholas Pooran is talented. Jason Holder is talented. There are talented individuals in that team. But as a collective, they do not have that extra, call it 1%, call it 5%, call it 10%, that takes you from being an assortment of talented individuals to being a collective team with a winner's mindset. We just don't have it. We just don't have it.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of hot takes about how, there's recent issues that might affect the team. Realistically, if we're talking about it, when we pulled out of the India tour in 2014 and we got rid of Bravo, Pollard, a lot of the senior players, that essentially began a cycle where we didn't win an ODI series for 4 years, 2015 to 2019. Essentially, losing became institutionalized in the culture of West Indian cricket in the 50-over game. They never tasted a series win. It's hard to break out of that cycle. We're only 2015 to 2019, that was 4 years. We're only 4 years beyond that at this point in time. Yep. Also, hit the like, subscribe, share. This is going to be a big episode. We're expecting record views for this because we know West Indians love nothing more than a cuss out, and this is probably the ultimate cuss out. But Mash, I just think it's the culture of losing went on for so long. It became ingrained in the fabric of the side. A lot of those players, like a Holder, for instance, came up in that era where we were losing a lot of time. So I just don't think they have enough experience of winning matches to fall back on certain tactics and certain strategies when they need to win in a high-pressure situation. I just think it's a mentality thing. As you said, Hope's one of the leading ODI batters in the world. We know what Porag can do, Mayers, King, all talented players. But it's just like you said, Mash, it's almost as if one player is underperforming and then the next game they do well, someone else takes the baton from them and underperforms. It's like they can't collectively come together to achieve a win. And I just think it's something which is embodied in the fabric of the side at the moment. I don't really know how you change it. But for me, obviously the talent's not as good as it has been in previous years. We can obviously say it's probably a mediocre to good at best type of side. But I just don't think it's a case of lack of talent. I think it's a lack of winning culture within the side.
So then we go to your second point about reset. I mean, I feel like we've had multiple resets in West Indies cricket. I feel like since I properly started getting into West Indies cricket, I've heard about turning corners and pressing reset over and over and over again. And this is harsh. This is really harsh, I'm going to say. When this generation of players retire, we ain't going to remember them for nothing. Nothing. Because what did they ever do? What did this generation ever actually do? And that's not me coming for them. That's what have they ever actually done? Apart from us just watch forlornly as they have another L, what have they ever done? I don't think this generation can truly honestly say, well, boy, we were the generation that did X, right? Knowing, therefore, that this generation ain't done anything for us. Where's the point now? And I reckon Darren Sammy must be thinking this in his head. You see, after this tournament is over and he has a say in selection, there must be a part of him which is thinking, you know what? Some of you man in this dressing room are just serial losers. You're not bad. You're not bad individuals. You're not bad human beings, but you're just serial losers. Let me go find some promising youngsters who I can invest in. Not too many, because you can't win anything with youngsters either. But let me give you an example, Santoki. Here's an example. Would you blame Darren Sammy if after this tournament he went to someone like a Ramon Simmons from Barbados and just said, you know what, you're 21, you've clearly got some talent, come through into the senior squad, let me work with you? Or is it too early to do something like that?
No, I don't think it is, because our win-loss ratio is so bad in favour of losses. I think you have to essentially view, starting with the India series, ideally, because, Sammy's made a point of saying he inherited this squad. This isn't a Sammy squad. So if we want to see a Sammy squad, I think you have to start preparing the first steps towards the 2027 World Cup, a 4-year plan. So you implement players who, need the experience, young players like a Raymond Simmons, and you just say, you know what, results essentially don't matter. We lose most of them anyway with an experienced squad. Let's just put these guys in. And then hopefully within 2-3 years, they would have had enough experience of playing in these ODIs that they can perhaps show something. But I think essentially, if you're calling it a reset, as we've said, they've done a lot of resets in the past, you start planning for the next World Cup as soon as this series finishes. So for me, straight away, a Shamar Brooks, Johnson Charles, they're 34 years old. They're out of the West Indies setup going forward after these qualifiers. You just plan for the next cycle. Ian Bester said, I go back to the decision to play an ODI warm-up series in the UAE and then replace 7 of those players with 7 rusty T20 players. Mash, what are your thoughts on that UAE series as preparation for this tournament?
See, I think Ian's onto something here. Now, when there was the press conference, so I attended the press conference when the World Cup squad was announced, and I said to Desmond Haynes at a press conference, or asked him a question, I said, what happens if somebody plays well in the UAE? Will that change the configuration of the World Cup squad? And Desmond said, no, the World Cup squad has already been named, who, unless somebody's injured, which is what happened with Gudakesh Moti, and then obviously Johnson Charles came in, nobody will come in. But then here's my problem, Santoki. What was the point of the UAE tour then? Because okay, yes, we know the IPL players had to get a rest, but some of those players, you could argue, look a bit off it. Not that they don't look game ready, but naturally, you've been playing IPL for what, 2.5 months, 3 months, whatever that tournament is nowadays. You go straight from that back home to your respective country, rest up for a week and a half, then fly out to Zimbabwe and are expected to get straight into it without any time to properly gel as a side. They had to do a warm-up tour. But if the plan was to have a warm-up tour without any of the actual main players who were going to play, what was the point of the warm-up tour? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, there was no, what are you warming up for? I get what you're saying. And like, if we even take Johnson Charles, done well in the UAE series, but then it's almost like he didn't get to play with the other players who were in their first choice 11. It was against the UAE side. So what context were there for those type of performances? And I just think also you're not giving Sammy a chance to work from the team. Sammy essentially had 2 warm-up games with the team, the first choice 11, to prepare for World Cup qualifiers. And this just links back to, wider issues about his appointment timing and everything like that. And the sort of the strategy behind these World Cup qualifiers. But for me, considering how important stakeholders and Cricket West Indies have said the qualifying for the World Cup is, it just seems like there was a complete and utter lack of planning for this tournament. Almost a complacency that we're the West Indies, we will manage to get through it. Because based on the preparations, you wouldn't expect West Indies to get through as poor preparations leading into the tournament.
The flip side is to say, what other preparation could we do? Because the IPL, like, it soaks countries, it soaks nations up like ours. And in a roundabout way, I said this on our last live after the Zimbabwe defeat, the other teams in this tournament had a better preparation time for this competition than we did. We had a bunch of players playing in that IPL tournament, some who didn't even play, flying in from all parts. Had Cricket West Indies decided that it was best to get them to have a rest because to almost get them mentally ready for the competition again. These times, Scotland, for example, went to play cool and smooth T20 and do up preparation as a squad together. Do you see what I mean? We didn't have a camp. We had no prep camp prior to the World Cup. We just turned up and said, boy, we're West Indies out here. Let's see what's going to happen. And we just got handed out L's as a result. When you deep the tournament, Santoki, when you deep the tournament so far, all we've done is beat United States in the pool.
And even United States, like, if you look how poor United States have been in the tournament, it was a pretty close game. Gajinand Singh hit a century, We gave Gajinand Singh the best day of his ODI cricket career. So even then, I don't know what you can take from this tournament. But as you said, the preparation just wasn't there, and it's easy to say this. Yeah, 303 viewers. I think that's a record match. Usually we get about 100, 120. So 303. Nothing like a cuss out. But I think even the numbers reflects what a monumental day it is. Because as you said, we're not mathematically out of the World Cup. There's a chance we win all 3 games, things go our way, we make the World Cup. But this just feels like I wouldn't even call it a change in the guard, but a seismic day for West Indian cricket, just because of the nature in which we lost, the fact it was an associate side. I know a lot of people, like including us, have said our quality of play is like an associate side, but we're still the West Indies. And just the fact how it looks at this very point in time, we're not going to make an ODI World Cup for the first time in history, bearing in mind the legacy we had on earlier editions in this tournament. It just feels like a massive, massive day in West Indies cricket. And Mash, do you think, we've always talked about the quote-unquote uncles, fans of an older generation who follow West Indies cricket. Do you think failing to qualify for the World Cup turns them away from West Indies cricket? Do you think this is the final nail in the coffin for those fans just because of the legacy and the importance of missing out on that ODI World Cup?
I actually don't. I think the uncles are institutionalized. They don't know how not to support West Indies. So with respect, and for any of the uncles in the chat right now, I think you'd probably agree with me. You've been doing it now for so long. And if you're of a certain age, you actually remember when we were good. So you can always live with the hope and the dream that we might be good again. So the uncles can never give up on the side. I actually think the biggest issue is the youngsters. If you are a youngster, or if you are a youngster, and I'm talking like like late teens to mid 20s, I call it mid 20s youngsters, but you know what I mean. If you're a youngster who's basically never seen West Indies be good, you're close to giving up on this side. Because what's the point? What's the point in watching them? Who wants to watch a side that just loses the majority of the time? You wouldn't do it in any other sport. So I'm more worried about the next generation just seeing West Indies as a bit of a joke thing and something that you shouldn't really pay any attention to because they're no good anyway. So I think that's more the issue. I think that's more the issue that we have to think about. Listen, before we go any further. See, look, Fireball's saying it. He's 26 and he's saying people of his age wonder why he's bothering. That's what I'm saying. If you're in your mid-20s, and you watch West Indies and you're trying to draw gal, you can't get gal watching West Indies. You can't. They must think you're a fool for watching West Indies. So, anyways, there are, of course, women in this chat as well, so you can't draw a man as well if you're watching West Indies, and whatever anybody's persuasion is. But anyways, before we continue, let me play Darren Sammy's interview because I think you should listen to this, everyone, because I think it's quite. I think before you lot listen to it, I think this is Darren Sammy basically saying everything. We got to burn everything down to the ground. Have a listen to this. Let me just get the volume on.
So many places. Look, halfway stage, 375 on the board. I thought the batters did excellently. But again, it shows you where we are as a team. We were kind of poor tactically. We didn't stick to the plans as long as possible. And we just thought, because we had 375 on the board, we should win. But cricket is not played like this. And it's a lesson for us that you can't take any game of cricket for granted.
And when you look at even your career as a player, would you rank this as one of the worst days, or you've seen worse days?
Look, I look at every day and I see what positives we could take from it. And obviously, as disappointed as I am and the guys in the dressing room, you have to understand I'm a very positive thinker, and I understand the journey that I have to take with this team. Sometimes you got to reach rock bottom to come back up. I understand the challenges that ahead, and I also understand that things will not change overnight, and it's a true reflection of where our cricket is at the moment, and we have a lot of work to do.
And going into the Super 6, starting on the back foot for no points.
Yeah, well, we've put ourselves there. We got ourselves to blame. Two crucial matches where points on offer, found ourselves in good positions, and we let it slip. So again, it's a true reflection of where we are as a team. And in order for this strain to move forward, a lot of things have to change.
And when you talk about a true reflection of where you are at the game, it seems a bit vague. Want to elaborate on that?
It's vague? Well, I guess you watch the game. If you score 375, and again we keep on dropping catches, and coming down to the end, some of the decisions we made, it makes you question what was going on. And again, like Zimbabwe, when we played against them today, we really did not deserve to win with that display of in the second half. It was really poor. Credit must go to the Netherlands guys. The way they batted and they stuck to it, and I watch and I see the
Dutch running between the wickets. I mean, in the power play, I think there were 3 singles and a lot of boundaries and 100 or so dot balls all told. Is that the big focus? Is it not just big hitting?
Yeah, well, we are aware of that. For years people keep saying we are boundary hitting team, and scoring of more balls is one of the big elements where we have to improve on in all formats of the ODI, of the white ball game. And again, just being hungry. You even in the field. So far, I could safely say we're the worst fielding team in this competition, and that's. I speak the truth, and I will tell the guys that we cannot continue displaying this type of behavior, attitude, or display in a cricket field and call ourselves an international team. Every other team, there's energy, there's a lot of things that we could take that we supposed to be doing naturally because it's a professional sport. But again, I would say it's a true reflection of where we are as a team and the stuff we have to do to move forward.
And Jason Holder to bowl the power play over, was that him or you? Or
I choose not to comment on that. I will probably discuss when I go out and we break down the game. But yeah, I guess I have full trust in the captain. Whatever decisions taken out there, it's he does it with the best interest of the team, and obviously we back Jason all the time to deliver. But again, there's learning from every situation, and I'm sure there's a lot of learning to be done after this game.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Boy, listen, boy, Sammy, I feel sorry for Darren Sammy, but I want people to know that that's not because Darren Sammy is my brethren, or I feel that Darren Sammy should have been made the next head coach or anything like that. Santoki and I warned. We said this in the last live. We warned time and time and time again. Anyone who listened to that show we did briefly, 99.94, West Indies on 99.94, we warned over 6 months ago. We said we don't have a head coach. Are we really going to go into World Cup qualifiers with a brand new head coach with players that who only know how to lose and expect that head coach to make a significant difference straight off the jump? And everyone will try and say with hindsight, oh boy, Shiv should have got the job, this, that, and the other. The players are still the players. What do you make of that interview, Santoki? I think that Sammy doesn't like what he's seeing and will shake things up straight after this World Cup. But he's got to be diplomatic at the same time.
Yeah, I think if you compared his body language and how he looks to his when he got the job and he posted a video with full energy just before his appointment, there's a massive contrast. You could already see the job's already slightly getting to him. But as you said, very diplomatic. I think he's holding his tongue, mainly because West Indies still have a chance to qualify him. Obviously, you don't want to bury your own team when there's still that opportunity. But I think once this tournament finishes, we'll probably get a full cuss out from Sammy about certain things and way things are handled. And I think he'll be given the rein to, leave his own mark on the team. We'll talk about, starting this reset. I think Sammy will be given that. And that's probably an incentive for him going forward, because what a way to start your job, Mash. An unprecedented cuss out in your first ever assignment as a West Indies coach. So for me, the big question will be, how long does Sammy stay in the job? Because we've seen it before. We've seen it with, Phil Simmons, Nicholas Pooran. There's only so much you can take as a cuss out, especially when you're an iconic player like Sammy, who's won 2 World Cups. To take a cuss out and your name be disrespected by fans and people across the region, it's a big toll. So for me, I'm also wondering, is Sammy going to be in the job long term? It's obviously a question we'll have to ask in the coming months based on results and how things go. But for me, the main takeaway was the body language and just the tone of how he was speaking was very contrasted a lot to that optimism we saw pre qualifying tournament in the UAE. That positivity, it's all seemed to be drained out from him, and I think that highlights that it's not just down to one man. One man can't change the West Indies. Whoever takes over the job is going to have that sucked out of them just because of how the team is playing and the culture in that side at the moment.
Yeah, most definitely. And I how we've performed in these last 2 games got me thinking back to when Nicholas Pooran was captain and we were taking, remember how many L's in a row was it? He nearly set the record. Wasn't it like 10 or 11 L's in a row?
Yeah.
When Pooran was captain. And everyone was saying, it's because Pooran's a bad captain. Phil Simmons is a bad coach. And I remember you and I doing some videos on that topic saying, but there's an issue with the squad. And again, I remember us saying that the squad isn't as good as people think it is. And whether Pooran's a bad captain or not is deeper than Pooran. Well, so said, so done. Now we've got Shea Hope as captain. And the first 2 matches we play against teams who could maybe challenge us, we took the L. We took the straight L straight away. And that's without us. At least with Puran could say, well, boy, I had to go Pakistan. We took 3 L's. I had to go there. We took some L's, if you see what I mean. If I'm Shea Hope, how long before Shea Hope falls on his sword, Santoki? How long before he turns around and goes, boy, I can't do nothing with this lot?
You know what? I think Shea Hope, because Shea Hope's in an unusual position at the moment of essentially being an ODI exclusive player in terms of he doesn't play T20s for us. He doesn't. I know he played Bangladesh Premier League, but he generally does. He's not on the franchise circuit like that. Test cricket, he's not made it back into the side just yet. So I think that he has that focus. For me, Mash, the big question is, if you're Nicholas Pooran, Carl Mayers getting franchise deals and West Indies have no chance of qualifying for the World Cup, and you know your next opportunity won't be for 4 years, if you're a Pooran or a Mayers, do you even play ODIs? Do you commit to the format? What are you getting out of it other than adding more weight to your body in terms of like playing more cricket, longer format cricket? Can you envision a scenario where the likes of Pooran, even Holder, Shepherd, just stick to playing T20 crickets for West Indies?
Well, if I'm Jason Holder, I'm retiring from ODIs after this competition.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what I would advise him to do. Not because I want him out of the side, but what's the point? He's 31 years old. If he maybe has, let's say Jason Holder says, my priority is T20 deals and playing Test cricket for the West Indies and maybe some T20s. Cool. Retire from ODIs. You're not needed around here no more. In a good way. Like you've served us creditably. You can step away now, Jason, and that automatically opens up another spot for the reset that should come. Johnson Charles should probably, after this World Cup qualifiers, never get picked again. Shamar Brooks should never get picked again. Not because I'm saying these players are bad players, but something's got to change going forward. And where you see there is potential dead weight or players the wrong side of 30, maybe that's the time to start dropping out 1 or 2 here and there to try and freshen it up. Because also, Santoki, someone like an Athenaeus who we expect will come in, it's about freshening up the dressing room with people who aren't used to just taking L after L after L. You have to bring in fresh blood who might bring like a new energy to the dressing room. Here's the elephant in the room as well, Santoki. I don't know if people are ready for this one. When we crashed out of the 2021 World Cup, you can see, as soon as I say this, you know where I'm going. Everyone said get rid of Phil Simmons, and Simmons went pretty much shortly afterwards, right? Everyone said get rid of Pollard. Pollard hung on till about February, March, and then he went shortly afterwards. The selectors, Roger Harper, Miles Bascombe, they didn't have their contracts renewed. When we got new selectors, led by Desmond Haynes, Haynes has now overseen 2 ICC competitions. The T20, the 2022 T20 World Cup, he picked that squad. They didn't even make it out of round 1. Lost to Ireland, lost to Scotland. He picked the squad to go to the World Cup qualifiers. Sammy had no say in it. He picked the squad with Roland Butcher to go to the World Cup qualifiers. And we're not going to go to the World Cup. When's he losing his job, Santoki?
I can see it happening after this tournament, to be fair. As you said, who else is going to be held accountable? But Mash, do you think there's much more a selector could have done in the situation? As in, are there players around who we could have called up and been like, they could have massively impacted the side if it's a systematic issue? So as much as I agree, I think Haynes will be held accountable as lead selector. Really and truly, what else could he have done?
I'll tell you something. He could have not told Nicholas Pooran a year ago, why don't you ring Sunil Narayan and see if he wants to play for the West Indies? He could have, prior to this World Cup, have flown to Guyana, sat down with Shimron Hetmeyer as lead selector and say, Shimron, come, let's reason on this one. Let's reason on this one and try to find a way to make this work for you, because clearly something is up. I'm not saying Shimron Hetmeyer is the be-all and end-all of helping West Indies become good, but you do something. Do something other than pick a bunch of Bayesian, man. Do something, man. Do something, bruv. God.
Hey, listen, man, they need to get us in, as selectors. There's West Indies are down on its knees. You've got nothing to lose by hiring Michelle and Santoki as the new selectors. We'll do a pledge to try and transform West Indies cricket within the next 2 years. But Mash, I agree. I think in terms of player relationships, I just feel like there's obviously a massive disconnect between Haynes and the players. The Sunil Narayan's a very good example. Again, with Hetmeyer, lack of clarity around things. But I guess my overall point is, once you get rid of Haynes and you put whoever in a selector, is it really going to change results? Is there much of a shake-up? If we brought Hetmeyer or Lewis into this ODI setup, would it have changed much? Which again leads to the issue of long-term, how do we change this culture? Obviously, heads will fall because you need to have people who are accountable. But realistically, it's much bigger than that. I wish it was a case where if we made 1 or 2 changes, change the selectors, we could reverse our fortune because there were talented players missing out. But the sad truth is we picked pretty much 85-90% of the most talented players in the region for these World Cups, and we're still underperforming massively.
Listen, you're saying, is there much more a selector could do? What they could do at least is be more transparent about the justification for why they're doing what they're doing. So, for example, when someone, like, here's just a perfect example. When someone says, oh, how comes, was Evan Lewis in your consideration, right? And then you say as a selector, well, boy, Evan Lewis says he's building his house. He'll be ready after. He'll be ready after CPL. People are gonna cuss, right? People are gonna cuss. So I just think that if you are a selector in West Indies cricket, it's not enough to just select people. You're going to have to go above and beyond. You're going to have conversations. You're going to have to... It's about being a selector in West Indies cricket is as much about selecting as it is about man management and trying to get to understand how certain things are ticking and so on and so forth. It's not as simplistic as just look at some stats and go, right, let's pick this man now. So ultimately, in a roundabout way, what I'm saying is Santoki and I are ready. Because the one thing you can guarantee if we were selectors is we would justify every single decision clearly and say why certain players aren't there and so on and so forth. And make it to the point where no one could cuss because it would be so clear why we'd done what we'd done. But, you know, it's...
007 saying, do you guys still want the selector's job? Listen, man.
I'm ready.
We've heard the bat signal. We've seen the bat signal, you know. West Indies is dying on its knees. We have to make one last stand, you know, as selectors to try and reverse these fortunes.
Listen, there were some super chats whilst I was playing that Darren Sandy thing. Let me just put them up on the screen. First one from Vitamin. Long time no see, Vitamin, by the way, or hear from. Thank you for the super chat, Vitamin. Vitamin says, why rest IPL players when they hardly play anyway? West Indies need to start from qualifying rounds next time with Papua New Guinea. West Indies could post 655 runs.
That's a big up Kieran Bell.
This whole message is chaotic. But he does have a point though, Santoki. I'm going to just focus on the first point. Lots of those IPL players didn't actually play in the IPL this year. Or if they did play, someone like Nikhil Hussain, he only played one match. So do you think it was the right thing to do to rest someone who didn't even, like, Rodman Powell played the first few, then just never played again? Like, should we have been resting players who didn't actually play a lot in the tournament, or was it right to give them a mental break from cricket before the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could argue, obviously, Kemo Paul was at the IPL. He was a net bowler, but he still went. Johnson Charles was with Kolkata at the IPL. He still played in UAE. But I think more so in terms of a player welfare perspective, obviously the IPL is a long time, 2 months in India, away from your home, your family. So probably from a mental perspective, obviously they decided that was the best thing to do. And I don't know if you can really argue with that, because obviously it's up to the players. I'm sure the players would have voiced their own opinions as well on what they wanted to do. And so it was probably felt a break was much needed. So I can't really see how getting them to play in the UAE, probably from a mental perspective, would have probably caused a lot of damage as well. So from that perspective, I can see why they're looking after player welfare. But again, it just reflects the chaotic nature of the schedule, the fact that the IPL overlapped with all of this stuff. And by the nature of it, West Indies were the only side in this tournament who had numerous players in the IPL. So it obviously affected us the most.
One thing I would just say before we kind of bring this show to a close with the final two super chats is that I do just wonder, Santolki, our test team is currently better than our white ball sides, right? And part of that is, I think, is because the test team have been together for a while. Like, you know who's in the test team. It's not like a case of, and maybe this is too simplistic of an argument, but with our white ball sides, you never quite know who's getting in a white ball squad from bilateral to World Cup qualifier to next bilateral, etc. Whereas in the test squad, you essentially, like when we have our test series with India, we already know the core 10, 9 or 8 players of that test team who are guaranteed. We know Kimar Roach is going to be there. We know Josh is going to be there. We know Craig. We know Tage. We know Blackwood. We know the majority of that team. Do you think that makes a difference?
Yeah, I definitely do. And I think it also helps that our test side have the players you name, most of them, Brathwaite, Chanderpaul, Blackwood, Roach, Gabriel. They're all red ball specialists, essentially. So we've essentially got guys who can focus on one format. They're focused. They're not playing in different tournaments around the world, franchise tournaments. They're focused on mastering the red ball craft. And again, that consistency of always playing together helps. So it is weird. The pendulum has sort of swung in recent years to the point where tests are probably our strongest format and what most fans look forward to. And again, I think you like you said, Mash, it's just the cohesion with the white. When me and you were talking before a white ball side is announced, we never know who's going to get picked because you're guaranteed there's always going to be an outlier, someone we never saw coming, picked in that squad, just because that just reflects a lack of strategy and a lack of, consistency means that you're searching, frantically scrambling for answers. I mean, Johnson Charles is a great example. The fact he played well in one good series against the UAE and he made the 11 for the World Cup qualifiers when really we knew the World Cup qualifiers were coming months in advance. We predicted it a year before. Surely you should have been building a side that be playing together to take part in that World Cup qualifying tournament. So I think, it's just the lack of certainty in the white ball side just suggests our lack of confidence in playing that format.
Z says, are we forgetting what happened in Australia? Our test side is not good. Yeah, but who wins in Australia, Z? Yeah. Come on, man. You can't use that as the example. And by the way, we made 333 runs in Australia. India just played Australia and didn't make 333 runs in the World Test Championship. So, yeah, we were trashing that second test. We had about 5 injuries in that second test. Listen, Australia just clapped up Bazball England in their own country and clapped up India to win the World Test Championship. Listen, I'll take a 2-0 defeat in Australia. That's calm.
Speaking of...
That's just normal settings.
Speaking of injuries, Mash, obviously... Yannick Correa took a ball to the face, missed out on the tournament, missed out on all the games so far. Do you feel having a leg spin and a sideward, bearing in mind what Hasaranga's done, do you think it would have made enough of a difference for us to get across the line in games like today against Netherlands?
Yeah, 100%. I think we've missed Correa. I think Correa played in the UAE tournament, played in all the warm-up games. His control was excellent. In the UAE tournament, he was taking wickets. I think leg spinners, if you've got one, are always a difference maker in short formats of the game. I think that has significantly hampered the construction of our bowling attack. But then on the flip side, Santolki, if we're saying that the reason why West Indies haven't won against Zimbabwe and Netherlands is because we didn't have Yannick Correa, then times are really bad out here. So we can't use that argument either as well. So listen, let me get to the other super chat. So Arman, thank you, Arman. Big up yourself. Arman says, big up Mash and Santolki. Gutted to see a cricketing powerhouse in West Indies in such a dire state. Hopefully you guys can go for a white ball refresh like my country Pakistan has. Love the channel. Thank you, Arman. I'm assuming you're tuning in from Pakistan. Big up, love that. We got supporters from all around the globe. But yeah, as Santolki and I said, we think a reset is necessary. I think if you read between the lines from Darren Sammy's comments, that's what's going to happen. It's just how wide or how much depth in that reset will there be. Actually, a question I meant to ask you earlier on, Santolki. If you're sure shallow, and by the way, people, that episode is dropping tomorrow. Santolki, do you remember when we? Do you remember? I said to Kishore when he said, we're going to do well in the World Cup qualifiers. And I said, listen, we can edit out of the show, you know. do you remember that? I warned him, man. I said, don't say that on the thing. But if you're Kishore Shallow, in a roundabout way, given he's only 100 days into the job, I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's almost a good thing that this is happening, because it almost gives you carte blanche as a new president to say, well, you know what? Shit ain't working. We need to rip everything up and really try and... Do you see what I mean? Do you get that argument?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's kind of like, you know, in football when, let's say like a Newcastle or West Ham get relegated and they use, or Burnley, let's take Burnley, for example. They get relegated playing poor style of football. They use that relegation to sort of rebuild everything from top to bottom, and they come back improved. It's kind of similar with West Indies cricket. The fact, if we don't make these the World Cup tournament, it kind of gives, things are so desperate times call for desperate measures, as they say. I think Shallow will be given more of an opportunity to shape things up in terms of make big, bold decisions. Whereas if we did qualify for the ODI World Cup, it's kind of like preserving the status quo because things are going okay. You sort of have to toe the line. So I do think that will give him carte blanche to sort of rip up the rule book and go about things the other way in a quest for revitalizing the West Indies cricket side. But I just feel, as we always say, Mash, there's never a dull day in West Indies cricket. So I'm interested to see how things come about after the World Cup in terms of player availability, what Sammy does, what this big reset involves, what policy Shallow announces. There's a lot that's going to happen as a result of the after effects of this not qualifying for the tournament.
Listen, Hetmeyer might blow up Burby's bridge, so he never has to play for West Indies again, you know. But
you know what? You made a good point, though, that the best performer of the World Cup qualifiers at the moment is Hetmeyer, because we all know Guyanese media most probably is going to be bigging him up, talking him up about coming back into the setup, because absence makes the heart grow fonder. The fact we performed so badly and Hetmeyer was playing in the IPL means people will inevitably say Hetmeyer needs to come back into the side. So his stock value has gone up as a consequence of this. Similar to probably a Shafane Rutherford or anyone missing from this side, their stock value has massively gone up.
Yeah, 100%. Brian, thank you, Brian, for the super chat. Brian says, you guys are helping me grieve, so this is for your effort. I'm disgusted that it ruined my whole day. Sammy does need to burn it down, and I hope he's given the power to do so. And actually, again, Brian's comment is pertinent, Santoki, because I think most rational West Indian fans would say, boy, well, we can't blame Sammy for this. Like, he was just given this team and told, try get us to the World Cup qualifiers. It's too early to kind of target Sammy for the cuss out. So if the big takeaway from all of this is that pretty much everyone's saying, boy, just rip everything to pieces and start again, I actually think most West Indian fans would get behind that. I think we've probably reached a stage where we're tired of the L's now, so we'd accept a huge reset, but time will tell. And then lastly from Sumit, and thank you Sumit as well, long-time supporter. Sumit Dahal says, we could discuss this all week, month, but any hope of a resurrection will basically come down to if there's enough love for cricket in the region and if administrators are serious enough about tapping into it. Yeah, and I'll add to that as well, Santoki, and I'll let you answer it, but I'll add to that as well and say, we already know that a lot of stuff centrally in Antigua that Cricket West Indies have built has firm foundation and good infrastructure. So the West Indies Academy has a firm set of facilities and structures and foundations that mean that when you send players from the different territories to Antigua, they're actually getting something better than their own territory 9 times out of 10. But possibly the key person in all of this now isn't Kishore Shallow. One of the key people in all of this is Asim Basarath, Vice President of Cricket West Indies, but also the President of the Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board. And I say the reason why I say he's key in all this, Santoki, is Asim has been one of those kind of old heads who's been running or been president of one of the regional cricket boards for a long time. It's always been easy, and hear me out here, Santoki. It's always been easy for someone like Asim to probably be on the outside looking in at Cricket West Indies and saying, boy, you lot need to get your, even though he's a director, you lot need to get your house in order, the cricket's run poorly at the top, and that can be blamed on the president. But now Asim's vice president, if Kishore wants to make meaningful change, almost, do you get what I'm, it's a long-winded way of saying this, but do you get where I'm coming from? It's almost like TTCB would have to be the first to do it to show the way for everybody else. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. 100%. I think the administration side is something again, that could be an episode in itself. But big up Josh De Silva, Test cricketer, in the chat at the moment saying we will get through this. Josh, man, is Josh going to be part of the big reset, ODI reset? So
Josh must be telling us he's in the next ODI side.
Yeah.
Okay. If Josh is in, okay, I'm back. Hold on. I'm back, everyone. Lights back on. We're up again.
But yeah, on a real match, I think everyone, West Indies fans, everyone in this chat, I think we reached over 300 at one point. Everyone just needs time to process this because, listen, it had all of us vexed, like literally. I think that also symbolizes how much we still care about West Indies cricket. The fact we were all vexed and still are vexed about how everything went about. But Shai Hope's going to be doing a press conference tomorrow. We'll probably be there. It'd be interesting to see what he said. I'd personally just love to know if it was an executive decision from him to step out for the Super Over and go from there. But yeah, it's been a cathartic experience, Mash. I think this has been like a therapy session for everyone. We move, as we said, we're not mathematically out of the World Cup. Things are looking very, very bleak, but West Indies never a dull day. We could also manage to get through, by the barest of margins. So we'll have to stay locked to the Super Sixes starting on Friday. But Mash, we've been running for over an hour. The smile's back on your face. Listen, you were sitting in the darkness.
You know I've got the smile back on my face because
go on.
The biggest joke of it all is this. As bad as it was today, we're all still going to watch on Friday anyway. We're all tuning in on Friday anyway. No matter where anybody's level of vex is, everyone in this chat and everybody who's joining this live will be watching on Friday, hoping against all hope that West Indies can pull out a W. So we're back, people. I'll see you all on Friday in the chat. Once again, putting our faith back in the West Indies to come good.
All right, guys, but yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. You know what, Mash? I think this tournament might have aged us about 5 years already.
It's
looking
true.
soon to be 10. If we take 3 more losses in this tournament. So, guys, it's been an absolute struggle. But as always, we rally. We'll rally on Friday. Catch us on Friday for the next live. Who knows what would have happened then? Who knows what the stress levels will be about? Will we be celebrating a win? Will we be vexed about a loss? You have to tune in to find out. Cuss out reaction on Friday night, guys. So stay tuned. But thank you once again for everyone to join in. It's been a very, very eventful episode. Lots of comments. So remember to comment, like, subscribe, share this on YouTube. Keep the movement growing. As Mash said on the previous episode, we're the only channel media outlet doing this, analyzing, breaking down every single match in this World Cup qualifying tournament, the good and the bad. So we'll be back for the next 3 games, no doubt. So stay tuned, everyone. Mash, I'll pass the final word. You've done such a great opening with the Undertaker theme. I'll pass the final monologue on to yourself before we head off.
Yeah, for real. Listen, people, I can't remember how many were in the live at the highest point. I think it was 300. I swear at one point it was something like 385, which is a new record for us on a live show. You lot treat this like AFTV. When Arsenal were bad in that, or say bad, relatively speaking, they used to get record numbers. You lot almost want West Indies to lose so you can come on and cuss. But no, thank you everyone who joined in with the live. Love all the comments. We're sorry we didn't do the usual cuss out hashtag thing today. I just knew that people would want to come on. 0027 says it was 402 at one point. Thank you everyone. But on your way out, do press like, do share, do subscribe. Maybe we're on 5k subscribers by the end of this video. Who knows? But thank you as ever, as Santoki says. Join us again on Friday after the Sri Lanka match. And you never know, if we win, we might be right back in it. I've been Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt. Santoki's been Santoki Nagilendran. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rule seems coming.
Not yet. Why?
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.